Alrighty. Let's see if we're working. Looks like that's working to me. Hell yeah. So, update on some guys from yesterday. I got all the space cops together. Some of them are super, super cool dynamic poses. It's a dog handler, and oh, you guys already saw the dog. Like, cool ass shotgun guy, and really cool riot guy. Right, super cool. I really liked the speaker, so I was like, I have to build that one. Then I built Judge Gimp. Just, I have no idea what this guy's gonna be, but it's just cool looking. So, yeah, really fun. The kit's actually, all the arms are universal in those, so you basically build anything as anything. It's pretty dope. Yeah, really, really cool Judge Dredd kit that thing is. But today, we're here for some bolt action. So I've got some Americans we're probably going to intermittently work on. A couple of them are like rifles and, you know, D-Day looking bros there. Storming Normandy and all that. So we got a couple of them we're going to work on. But the big thing we're going to work on today is the M4 Sherman. Because this morning I went on a Google image kick and looked at so many pictures of tanks. Oh my god. So many pictures of tanks. So I think I will probably do some stowage and stuff for this. But I think we can get our base coats and stuff, start getting it working down first, and then I can add it later. But I noticed there were a couple different versions of the Sherman, and a bunch of stuff. People used to like put boards here, and then they would fill this front area up with stowage, and this back area they'd hang logs off the sides, stuff like that. So I'll probably do a little bit of stowage work on this guy, just because I think it'd be pretty cool. I don't want to do too much because I don't want him to be like a super late kind of looking tank, but I do want him to have a little bit. Maybe he's seen a little bit of combat, you know? So that's pretty cool. Also magnetized it because I know it creates a little bit of a line, but I really like the magnets versus the plastic sitting on each other. So I think that's pretty cool. So we're gonna start working on him. Now the research I've done on these, which was like my entire morning, the Sherman was usually just pretty much GI green. Like, there were some variants of it that were darker, and there were some variants that were camo, but they were probably primarily like a Eastern theater, like against Japan kind of thing. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do like the basic GI green. I noticed a lot of them had like this, like that guy there. I noticed a lot of them had like cute little names and stuff on the side of it, so I think I'll probably do something like that too. And then some of them were like a darker green, which is kind of cool, but I think we'll do the basic GI green. So for that, I've got Army Green from L'Armée Painter. I think we're just gonna get some base coats down to that and start picking away details. This guy really shouldn't be that bad to paint, to be honest. Should be pretty easy. But yeah. Yeah. He is going to take a couple of coats because this color doesn't cover for shit though, so. Yeah, apparently there was a Sherman that was also like a flamethrower. It would carry like a flamethrower tank with it. Apparently there was one they built a fucking howitzer into and turned it into like a half track. Like there's all kinds of cool Shermans, man. Way more than I thought there was, I tell you what. Way more than I thought there was. But yeah, really hyped to have a Sherman. I like the idea a lot of like having like a little kind of like equally matched force for each side. I think that's pretty cool. My Germans are going to have a couple tanks, my Americans are going to have a couple tanks, stuff like that. I do have to find a good game to play these guys with that I can play by myself. I think I can probably play Conflict 47 by myself, but I'm curious if there's some better options. So go look into that. So I think I'm a little more interested in the like, you know, the Band of Brothers or like Castle Wolfenstein kind of battle versus like, you know, like a Normandy invasion kind of thing. I don't think I'm super into that. I think I'm more like, I don't know, Kelly's Heroes, you know, Desert Rats kind of thing. I think it's more interesting to me. So yeah, did see there's a really cool box set for the Japanese and the Americans, where you get a bunch of like Marines and you get a bunch of Japanese. I think it's called like Island Assault or something. Man, it's really cool. Really, really cool box set. But yeah, I guess I should talk about why I'm streaming a little later than normal. Why I'm not streaming a game today. I'm just super kind of little low energy at the moment. We ended up having to go over to the house we're buying and take a look at some of the documentation stuff. So little low energy, but it's why I'm not. So I was going to play Battletech on stream today, but just don't have the energy for it. So working on the Sherman, because I am super hyped to paint this guy. Such a cool tank. Really, all the tanks during World War II were really cool. Really, just tanks are fucking cool. They're like armored crabs that people get inside. You strap big guns to. That is such a weird statement I just said, but it's accurate. But yeah, tanks are cool, so it'd be cool to do a game where it's just like a bunch of tanks. All facing each other. I think there is actually a game like that. I think it's called Flames of War. But it's a different game. It's a smaller scale game, I think. I do like smaller scale games, but I'm really enjoying these models, so I don't super want to get into it right now. Plus, I'm gonna be super honest, I really don't like painting smaller scale infantry. Just feel like I can't ever make them actually look good, you know. I know some people can, and that's awesome for them. But I always feel like I just can't. So. Even the ones I've done for Battletech, I'm kind of like meh over with how well I did, you know, because just at that small of a scale, there's not a ton you can do for the model, you know. I know some people do, and they even paint like the faces and stuff, and I'm just like, the fuck? It gets so tiny. I think Flames of War is 15 millimeter, and Battletech is like 6 or 8. So I don't know how you do those small little soldiers. I do really like doing terrain in that scale though, because I think it's really fun to like have this like massive sprawling area in like the size of a small coffee table. Something about that just tickles my brain. Should probably be using a bigger brush, to be honest. Using the smaller brush is going to get me a bunch of brush strokes. So I guess we should switch to a bigger brush. Do I have a... No, how about you? You're a paneling brush, but... Are you oh, you are a base brush. Okay, we'll use you. This is the base brush I got from Imperium. It's a little knackered, but I do actually really like this brush. In retrospect, it's now actually probably not going to be able to get everywhere. Oh, you fucking life. Oh, yeah. The Sherman had a bunch of different variants during the war. I think it was called the Crocodile. And it was it's one that had a flamethrower on it. Had like a gas tank it used to pull around. There was one with a howitzer in it that I already mentioned, which is pretty cool. Where they basically, the whole thing was basically open top, and it was using like just this part of the tank, and there's a howitzer sticking out of it. We're going back to the little brush. Oh, you're a better option. We're gonna use you. And there was a bunch of different variants of the actual tank itself, like one where it had skirts that came down over the side here. And then one where the front was really flat and steep. I think that was the A4. That one tended to have a little bit bigger of a barrel and like longer, and it had like a big muzzle brake on it. So apparently there's a movie all about a Sherman called Fury. I was looking at pictures of that. I've never seen the film, but I was looking at pictures of it, and apparently that was a like an M4, and painted in kind of like a dark, really dark green color scheme. Yeah, just working on coat 2. So we'll probably take a couple of coats of just base coating, unfortunately. Then we can start getting into the details. But We'll get there. We'll get there. But yeah, buying the new house, which is gonna be amazing. The house is gonna be so fucking nice. I was looking at the what's going to be my craft room in the new house today, and the layout is just going to be fantastic. Because to my left here, right, this is bookshelves. There's basically an inset in the wall for these already, and then I have one table here and one table here, and these are kind of like kind of cheap, like computer desks. And there's a spot against the wall that's gonna be amazing for these. So really hyped for that. Should give me so much more space. So my 3D printer and stuff, that's all gonna be out in the garage. Because right now it basically takes up one of the desks that's next to me. Which, I mean, it's no good. You know, you don't want that. So yeah, should be pretty cool. So this green color is the same green color I've been using for all the GI helmets. So they should match a little bit with the tank. Should at least be like a little bit of color, like recognition between the pieces, which is pretty cool. I was this morning. While I was eating lunch today, not this morning, I was looking at stowage and stuff. There's a YouTuber called Painting Panzers, who I think is primarily a Flames of Wars channel, but he was doing a video on stowage. So I think I'm going to do some stowage for this guy to get him to not just be like the standard issue tank, you know. So he's got a little bit of stuff on him, you know. I was looking around for STLs for that. I found a bunch of stuff for Flames of War, but not a ton for bolt action. It's a little bit for bolt action, but not like an absolute ton. So gonna probably need to poke around some more for that, see what I can find for stowage. I do think a little bit of stowage would be cool. This should be an amazing project to use my airbrush for. In retrospect. Alright, let's give him a second to dry, and then he'll get another coat and probably should be done. And we can work on our our top here for our Le Tank. So I learned this panel here on the side, that's actually like a view or like an air panel or something like that. So you can actually position that to be open. Because when I was building this tank, I was like, the fuck is this? Why did they make this panel separate? So fucking weird. And then I realized, looking at all the pictures, all the historical photos, a bunch of them were like propped open. Oh, that would be why. So I kind of have to think of a cute name for this tank. I saw one. I saw one named the Classy Pig, which I thought was really good. So I have to come up with some kind of cute name for it. Apparently the later version of this had a different, like a longer barrel and like a big muzzle brake on the end. Looks really cool and actually very modern. Like this kind of cannon looks way more old and dated, which is kind of cool in itself. But it was neat that the other tanks had like a different muzzle on them. Oh, just trying to get color coverage, man. I'm not even really thinning this paint down, right? Like, she's basically coming straight out the bottle. So my order of operations for painting this tank. There's my belly wiggling the table. The bane of being a fat guy. So my order of operations for painting this tank is to get the base coat down. Right, get this green color down. Nice and smooth, like throughout majority of the model. It was primed white, so or like beige color. So anywhere where you can sort of peek through it, it's going to be very obvious. So we don't really want that, right? Like we want good coverage all over. Like that spot right there, right? Oh, sorry, a little off the camera. You know, in some of the details and stuff. Like we don't want those. And then my plan is to pick out most of the details. Now this tank doesn't actually have a ton of details right now that aren't just green. Like we're going to do the tanks. We're going to do some metal on the wheels. The metal and a couple more bits like the gun and some of the stowage that's on there now, like this tow line and like the axes and stuff. And then she's pretty much ready for washes after that. Now, to tie all this stuff together, I'm going to use the same wash I've been using on the Nazis. And that is Vallejo Umber ink. Just because it's just better Agraxar shade. Like I do genuinely just like it better. It's a little harder to use because it comes in a dropper bottle, not a pot. But I mean, not the end of the world. Because I do prefer dropper bottles except for washes and stuff. But it's really nice. It goes on well. It does not stain that much, but it still pulls in the crevices and stuff. It's really like an A+ product in my mind. So yeah, so I got to paint in a couple details. There isn't a ton of details that just aren't green on this tank, right? So after the washes, so details, washes, Then we're going to do probably a dry brush of green again, just to grab all the highlights for it. Just using a big makeup brush. Get ourselves a nice dry brush of green, and it'll probably restore the color a little bit. So the color is going to get a little muted with the wash. And then after that, we can start to weather it. So that'll be pretty cool. So that'll be a little bit of dry brush around metal around like the tires and stuff, down around like the road wheels and down on the tracks and stuff, and all that area where like the metal might be chipping, right? Or the paint might be chipping. Stuff like blackening the end of the barrel, stuff like that, right? So after that is weathering. Before we do weathering, I might do decals. So this tank will be getting a couple of decals. Yep, see there's a couple little spots there still. You can see them. Where we try to look at our models from all angles. And there's little details like that. There we go. There we go. Okay. Alright, so let's start picking some details out. Hello! So yeah, just gonna pick a couple details out. Oh! You know, I like to do tracks in black, or rather a really dark gray. So this is heavy charcoal. I fucking love this color. It is my favorite like black color. I think it's actually a discontinued color, which is kind of a pain in the ass. But I would find another equivalent of it in the future, I guess. I do have a couple bottles of it though. They went on sale at my local game store because they switched to the new Vallejo color rack, and I bought everything they had of the old color, so I've got like 2 or 3 bottles of it still. Alright, so we're going to start getting those tracks painted in. I'm going to have to lean all the way in, so we're going to zoom in. Whack! There we go, cool. And we're just going to start picking them out. I'm actually going to change brushes. This brush is extremely detail-y, and it is way too small for this project. So, we're going to switch brushes. Thank you. So yeah, so I like to do the tracks in black, and then what I do is I'm going to dry after I put some mud and stuff on them, I will dry brush them silver. So it's like the silver part where, you know, like it's grinding or whatever is showing through. Or rather, I'll dry brush them gunmetal. Sorry. That's what I'll do. And it'll be pretty cool. But yeah, one of the really fun things about this, doing this historical stuff, is getting to learn the history bits of it, right? I like spending this morning looking at pictures of historical tanks, right? And rebuilds of tanks, and, you know, actual photos from the past, and then reenactments and stuff from movies, and, you know, it's really neat. And just trying to piece together like what I want, right? So I was originally not going to do any stowage at all in this tank, you know, but after looking at the photos and then watching Painting Panzer's video, I was like, a little bit of stowage is cool. You know, I'm not going to do like an absolute ton, but even the tanks that looked fresh had at least like a couple things hanging off of them. You know what I mean? There's at least a little bit of stuff hanging off those tanks. One of the things they would do a lot, it looks like, was actually hang wood off the tank or pile the front here with sandbags, which is kind of cool. The wood hanging off the tank, I think, was twofold. I think they could use it as a ply bar in case they got stuck. And I think it also just was actually a tiny bit of like extra armor and stuff. It's pretty cool. So yeah, playing on a little bit of the stowage there, but not too much. Definitely want to I don't know, just make sure my tank has a little bit of like my personality and it doesn't look like, you know, it's completely factory fresh, you know. Like I do want it to look a little bit like she's seen some combat, even if it, you know, might not be like end of the war kind of tank, you know. One of the things I'm learning about bolt action is that people tend to build armies for specific theaters. So like for Africa or whatever, they tend to like theme it around that. I'm going a little more generic, right? Because I really want my guys to be more Conflict 47, right? Like think like Hellboy, where the Americans storm that like Nazi base thing with Rasputin and all that. Right? Like that's what I want more than like these are the guys at the Battle of Fuhuga Gods. You know what I mean? I want it to be more like these are the guys that fight the evil Nazi scientists, you know? So like I want to get some level of like accuracy, but like if it's not perfect, I just don't care. But I am learning that people do like to like tailor their guys to a specific time. It's just cool. Like it's neat to be like learn about an era and a theater and be like, aha, these are the 71st Jerk-Off Corps from Africa or whatever, right? Like, that's kind of cool. But I want my guys to be more like generic fantasy World War II. With zombies and werewolves and all that kind of stuff. More Castle Wolfenstein, less Battle of the Bulge. I don't know if Battle of the Bulge was older too. I don't think it was. But I mean, learning the history is cool. But the fantasy version of the history is cooler. You know, like in my head, like, you know, my commander of my German forces is like a member of like the Hitler Thule occult society, you know, and stuff like that. Like, you know, my brain, that's where I'm at. I do have to make a commander for both forces, actually. It'd be cool to do like actually Hellboy, maybe as like part of like Broom. Bet you could find STLs for those. That'd be super cool. I guess Hellboy would have been a child during World War II, huh? So like maybe like Lobster Johnson or something. And Broom. Or like, I don't know. Maybe like literally Captain America. That might be pretty fucking cool. Oh. So yeah, I'm gonna have to go back and trim up around those wheels for sure. Plus, I do think I want to pick some of them out in metal. I guess this just shows them just being green. Maybe the outer edge. Yeah, the outer edge is metal. Alright. We'll have to go back and pick those out of metal. That's fine. But yeah, painting the historical stuff's really neat. Getting to learn the history and stuff about it. You know, it's sort of like learning the lore of a 40k faction, right? Like, it has that same kind of like appeal to it. Because like when you pick a 40k faction, it's really fun to like super get stuck into the lore for that faction and be like, I know everything about the Dark Angels. I've read all their books, and you know what I mean? Like, that's pretty fun. So like, you know, games with really big lore and stuff, right? Where they have this big world with them. They kind of already have that appeal. Me saying that will probably trigger the living hell out of some super rivet countery kind of people, but it's true. The same appeal that, like, you know, learning the World War II history has, that already exists in 40k, you know. And in other games, you know, like Star Wars, for example, right? Like, if you're like, oh, I'm going to make a droid army. Oh, I should watch all the stuff at the Clone Wars, you know, like, that's appealing and interesting, you know what I mean? Even if you're learning a sci-fi thing, it's still pretty cool. Like, I knew these Space Cop models were coming out, so I kind of wanted to learn a little bit more about Judge Dredd. So what I've been doing every night before I go to bed is I've actually been reading the original 2000 AD comics for Judge Dredd. Like, the original ones where, like, they basically started his character off. So I've been reading those every night, which is pretty fun, right? Like, it's pretty cool getting to see those super old comics and getting to see, like, the character before it was really the character, right? Like, watching them try to, like, flesh out Judge Dredd and figure out really what he's going to be is really, really neat, you know? But, you know, as cool as that is, like, you know, historical and fantasy things both have that, right? Like, it's really cool to learn about the Sherman, right? Because it's a real thing and it's cool. And it's also really cool to learn about Judge Dredd. You know? So, like, that kind of like, you get to learn about this thing is really neat, right? Now, some people will place the realistic one, the real one, over the, like, fantasy one. But, I mean, honestly, I'm not one of those people, right? Like, I think learning about fantasy is just as cool as it is learning about reality. So, oh, I'm using black metal here, by the way, by Scale 75. I think this is, like, ironically, like, the perfect gun color. So I really, really like to use it for guns. because it is a little darker than actual gunmetal. So it's going to paint stuff like the machine gun in it. Stuff like that. I'm not going to paint the ammo crate for the machine gun because we're going to do that in green as well. Because these old US jerry cans are green. Not jerry can, the old US ammo cans are green. They're one of those things you see all the time at gun shows. Is this like style ammo can? Okay, cool. Alright, so that's all the little guns painted. Let's figure out what the other details need to be painted on here. We need to do the road wheels. We're going to give that a minute. And then we have, looks like shovels and axes, and there's a pickaxe head there. Alright, so we got to do all those too. Alright, so let's work out actual gunmetal for those. And things like the tow line, we need to do that. I guess the handle of these would actually probably be wood, huh? Probably wouldn't be metal. So break out some wood color and do those. Yeah, this is a pickaxe head here. And this is some kind of axe head. It is fun to learn all the history, though. I do have to 100% say that. Right, but it's the same kind of fun of learning a fantasy thing, right? Like I'm not super into Transformers, but like a couple years ago, I went on this like lore thing, learning all this like lore pilgrimage, learning all this lore about Transformers. Just because it was really interesting, right? And there was this whole community there that like I didn't know jack shit about. So it was cool to like learn about it and be like, oh, I didn't know Starscream had all these stories, you know? Like that's pretty cool. Yeah, the World War II stuff's been interesting too, right? Like learning about all the uniforms and learning about all the tanks and, you know, looking at all the STLs and stuff for each one. Like, it's been kind of cool. I bet these tow hooks here, they would probably have been painted green with everything else. We are going to get these lamps, though. I'm going to get the inside of the lamps here, because I don't want to paint them like a color like they're on, because I don't like that look, so... But we are going to paint the inside of the lamp there. Yep, got some black splotches we got to clean up. And the rest of this would probably be green, to be honest. Minus inside of these wheels here. So I guess we'll just start doing those, I guess. Start knocking the wheels out. Turn wheels here. Their job is to basically make sure the tread doesn't fall down on itself. And we've got drive wheel. This basically drives the tread along with the sprocket. Oh, wiggly belly. And then we've got the road wheels here that run on the tread. Yeah, you could, if you really wanted to be like super stickler painter, you could keep these tracks off very easily to sub-assemble them. Do I think that's necessary? No. Because honestly, like, I'm going to be slathering these things in mud and stuff. So, a couple mud deep kind of plan for these treads. So all my guys right now are on this GW mud stuff. I'm going to swap that out for this Vallejo one that is wildly cheaper. And I think if I do like on the tank weathering with the GW one, and then do on the tank weathering and the base in the Vallejo one, I think it's going to look really freaking cool. So I picked it up from Amazon and it's on the way. Because Vallejo actually has a ton of really nice texture paints. And they just save you having to do it yourself, which is really nice. Like, I know texture paints are one of those like bougie things, sort of like base ready mixes and stuff. But I do really like them. So yeah, there's all the little lines on the wheels done. And they'll pick up some more gunmetal as we when we are later in the weathering as well. Okay. Yeah, so I've got a bunch more GIs to do. I've got a bunch more Germans to do. I do want to print myself out some German Nazi zombies. There's a really nice STL for them from Kuroshiko Neko, the people that did the werewolves that I printed out, that I painted like German shepherds. They have a really nice STL for Nazi zombies as well. So I want to do some of those. And they also do a literal crab tank for Japan, which is really cool. So, to be honest, I might print that out just because it's so fucking cool, even though I don't have any Japanese guys. Like, the design of it is really cool. There is also like a German like spider tank that they made for Conflict 47. It's really cool. The Kuroshiko Neko people, I mean. Most of the officially licensed Conflict 47 from Warlord Games, most of those models are really nice, but most of them are either like more expensive, or they are metal. And I really don't like metal minis. Not a fan of metal at all. So I think for those kind of units, I think what I'll probably end up doing is trying to find 3D printable proxies, like the werewolves I have. Like that. But yeah, I've got the whole Fallschirmjäger box that my parents got me for Christmas. I've got that still. I haven't built anything out of that. And I still have a sprue of the German Grenadiers from the Band of Brothers box. So lots still to work on for bolt action. It's pretty cool. Which is pretty cool. All right, there you go. It's both sets of wheels done. Let's see. We got that wire on the top. We did the gun. We did the lights. Anything here? I should do the inside of this light. There we go. While I have this out, I'm gonna just hit the barrel a little bit. The tip of the barrel a little bit. There we go. Yeah, just gotta touch up the grains on that. And touch up the grains down here. You know, while I still have a bunch of this paint out, I think we're actually gonna do some of the dry brushing on those wheels now. I think that's what we're gonna do. See, it's just going to grab all the high areas here. Be a little more apparent on the black than anything else, which is fine. I do want it to. You want to just hit all the wheels. You end up getting a cool kind of little more beat up look to the treads, and I will do this again after it's weathered. Just because I think it looks cool. And it will make parts of the tread stand out through the mud, which makes sense. Part of your tread would sort of sit through the mud. You'd be able to see it because it's the area that's going to take a lot of damage and stuff while it's moving. And it's going to like grind the mud off, you know. But a little bit now doesn't hurt anybody. Alright. You know what? Let's keep going with that weathering. That's really fun. We probably shouldn't do this before the washes, but we're going to. Really, we need to touch up the grain and then let it sit, and then we can wash it. But this is really fun, so I want to do it. So I'm going to do a little bit like scrapes going up like that on both sides. Here on the wheel well. Some areas are a little more scraped up than others, right? But you can touch some of that up here in the back as well. I think these guys here would probably take a little bit of a beating too, so they'd probably be a little scraped up. All right, then we can just gently hit a couple little areas here and there. All right, this tank turret line around the tank, that would probably take some damage. You know, a lot of these kind of sharp edges would probably take a little bit. Just gonna give it a little bit of a rough around the edges, could go, and then we'll pick up some areas. Nice. Move up here at the top. This one, there's probably going to be a little bit of scrapes going up here like that. Bring a little bit of scrapage here and there. Probably here in the mantle there'd be a little bit, you know. Here in the cupola for sure there'd be some. And we'll use what's left here to hit that. Yeah, and there we go. A little bit beat up, which is what we want. Alright, now let's break our green back out and clean up some of those errors. We'll start here. You can see like this stuff there, it's just a little bit too much. So knock that down a little bit. And produce a nicer little result. Like that. All right. A little bit of wear and tear, exactly what we want. I want to kind of avoid silver on the big flat panels because they just want to be there. All right, unless it's from like people's boots being scuffed and running over the tank, which is possible, and that's the thing that could happen. I'll hit some of those black dots we fucked up. You can see like that, that's too much. Same with that. You know, we can pull those down like that. Oh, I forgot to paint the tools on the weapon, or the stowage. Alright, so I guess we're doing that next now. Alright. Doing the same thing here. We also just missed a couple areas in this, so we have to make sure we clean those up too. We just missed them on the first pass. Or we didn't have as good a coverage as I would have liked. So I'm going to paint this ammo cannon. So this is really tiny, and you're probably not going to be able to see this in YouTube land, but there are little mounts for the gun that I want to be green. Why do I want them to be green? Because I think it's a nice detail. I think it's looks cool as a differentiation. You can kind of see it there. I think it looks cool as a differentiation from the machine gun itself. So there we go. Alrighty, so let's paint in that stowage, but our little tank friend's coming along. So we got to paint in the handles on those stowage. So we're going to use fur brown. There's a lot of nice browns out there, but I do like this one. It's the one I use a lot for boats and stuff. It's kind of a more warm brown. And I don't know what those are. Maybe there's some kind of ply bar or something. I don't know. I'm going to keep them green. But yeah, there we go. Little handles painted. And now we're going to give our friend Mr. the Tank a couple minutes to dry. Just a couple. And then we're going to start hitting him with washes. Which is going to be that umber ink from Vallejo. So while we let him dry, we'll do the base coat on a US GI or two. So this is Vallejo Khaki. It's the color I've been using for the GI gear. I know in some theaters they had more like green gear and at some points of the war, but in my brain the tan is like the uniform of World War II. So that's why I'm going to paint them this way. But the tan was probably only used, like, I think it became green near the end of the war. And then the Marines always had this weird kind of, I don't know, like mint colored uniform. The standard GIs ended up getting more green stuff later on, from what I understand. And I'm not like World War II super knowledge man, but from the little bit of research I've been able to do, that's how that works. But I got most of these guys with the M1 Garands. In bolt action, I think like you get a bunch of them with like SMGs and stuff and things like that. But I do like just the default guy with the M1. I think it looks really cool. And you know, like every US squad, like, you know, things like pistols and SMGs and stuff, like they weren't really that common, right? Like it was not common to have a Thompson, right? Like that was or a BAR or something like that, right? Like that wasn't common from what I can tell. But you know, you can take X number of them in the unit in bolt action, and like if you want to be super efficient, that's probably what you should do. But I don't know, not about that kind of efficiency, right? I kind of just want them to have the kind of like default guns. I did make one guy with a Thompson, which is this guy right here, because I wanted him to be like the commander of the squad. I figured I would give the boss of every squad a Thompson. I have to look up the rules because I don't know if the GIs can have a bazooka man in every squad. But I built a bazooka man out of these GIs because the bazooka man is just too cool. I think the bazooka man is like a separate unit, right? I've also been putting these paired units on one base. I think technically they're supposed to be on separate bases, but in my brain they're like one unit, so I like them being on one bases. And one of the YouTube channels I watch, all their units like this are on one base. It's Modeling for Advantage, they're called. Irony, they have units that are probably not based correctly. But yeah, they're called Modeling for Advantage. They have a lot of machine gunners and stuff that are on these like two-man bases. Or like their bazooka man is like this. So that's why I've been doing it this way. Because I think it looks cooler having like the squad, right? I actually even rebased the German ones that I had shown off yesterday on stream. So we'll probably do washes on our tank, and then I'm probably I'm probably stuck then waiting for the washes to dry, so I'll probably call my stream there. But we can at least get our washes on. Do we... I think there's a Sherman card, right? Yeah, does it have... First off, thank you, Morella. I love that they do that. Warlord Games does that. Okay, what do we have? We've got one big white star. We got a couple silly words. And a couple model numbers and a couple little stars. I don't know where the big white star is supposed to go. I'll have to look that up. Alright. Alright. So let's do this washes on this tank. I don't think I'll do the decals yet, because I want to try to figure out what I want to do with those. I think it gets like a big white star like on the side or on the front or on the side of the turret, something like that. And then I think this is where everyone would draw their names and their like cartoon characters and stuff. Alright, so let's do washes. And then I guess we'll do a little bit of dirt weathering too, huh? This stuff, god tier. This is the Umber Wash from Vallejo and their new game color line. This shit's amazing. I love it. It is my new favorite wash. Alright, I'm just gonna start hitting it. I'm gonna apply it pretty heavily. Basically everywhere. And it should help to dirty down and stuff like that and look really good, so. I do want a little bit of pooling, but not like an insane amount of pooling, so. I primarily want it to pool in like crevices and in the wheels more than like on flat areas and stuff. All right. That's one set of the wheels. Nice job just dirtying everything up. All right. And she is going to look dirty, which is good. And this stuff doesn't stain as much as Agrax Earthshade, which I really like. But it does give you some nice brown. It doesn't run as much as Agrax Earthshade either. So like it is going to pool, but it's going to pool a little bit less than Agrax Earthshade. Which means that it does look better on flat areas than Agrax Earthshade does. But it does mean that like if you want to really have like gunk pull in like the wheel wells and stuff, hitting it with a second dab of Agrax Earthshade might actually not be a bad idea. You can see I'm kind of applying it pretty non-wash like, to be honest, because I'm going over it a lot to make sure there's not like crazy pooling or anything. But yeah, it should give us a really nice kind of weathered look in the end. Be careful with these bottles when you shake them, because if the lid isn't on perfectly tight, wash will splash up and around the nozzle. That's true for any wash in a dropper bottle, but it's worth mentioning now. So like any wash and dropper bottle will do that. It's not unique to these Vallejo ones, for example. But yeah. It's funny painting these, right? Like my mind starts running like, God, it'd be so cool to have like, you know, some Marines with the flamethrower tank and could fight the like Japanese crab tank, you know, and like my brain just starts going, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, how cool would this be? How cool would that be? You know what I mean? And it's really neat. And we lived in Maryland, because I live in Hawaii right now. When we lived in Maryland, there was a lottery. So it's probably going to sound dumb that I'm going to explain what a lottery is, but in case you live in a place that doesn't have one like I do right now, a lottery basically is you pay money for a chance to win a lot of money. It's essentially like statewide gambling. Like everyone plays on the same pool, essentially, right? So you'll pay $20 and you'll get your shot at winning like numerous millions of dollars, right? So when I lived in Maryland, me and my husband would play the lottery every now and then when it got really high. And we never played the lottery because we thought we would win. Right? Like we know statistically it's basically like impossible to win the lottery, right? Like you can't buy enough tickets to guarantee that you're going to win, right? Right? Or have any like actually understandable percentage. Like the percentage chance of winning is so low that your odds of winning basically like are essentially like so low, right? That it's almost impossible. Now, we would still buy lottery tickets with this knowledge, because the lottery tickets, it was sort of like an excuse to daydream a little, right? Like, oh, what would we do if we had, you know, $200 million, right? What would we do if we had, you know, like some insane amount of money, right? Like if money stopped being an object tomorrow, what would you do? You know, like, you know, it was really exciting and fun, you know, to sort of have those daydreams, right? And buying the ticket kind of like freed our mind up to do that, you know. So we always enjoyed the lotto, right? But it's funny because like, you know, working on a model like this, it kind of does the same thing, right? Like, or working really on any models, it kind of does the same thing, right? Like I start having all these like exciting, like, oh, I could do this and I could do this and I could do this and I could do this, you know, and I was like, oh, I could get this and I could get this, and you know, it gets you know, it taps into that same part of the brain, right? Like, you know, and it's super exciting and it's fun. And it's one of those things that like my brain doesn't usually do that, right? Like I don't usually sit around thinking about all the crazy stuff I could do if some impossible option happened, right? But like, you know, I'm sitting here painting this tank. I was like, oh man, it'd be so cool to like, you know, make a set of terrain that was like, you know, like all like bunkers and trees like Normandy. You know, like that'd be fucking cool. Like how cool would that be, you know? Or like a Japanese forest, you know. And the guy's got to like stalk through it, and it's like filled with spider holes and, you know, stuff like that, right? Like, you know, my brain starts to do that. It does that with Warhammer models too, right? Like, you know, paying my sister to battle, and I was like, oh man, I can't wait to have battle of these versus Tyranids, and, you know, I did that. It was really fun. I did that on the channel the other day, and, you know, but it's just interesting stuff. Like how the mind works there. Donk. Looking pretty damn good, ain't it? I think that looks pretty damn good. I think that looks pretty damn good. Alright, let's get some mud out. And this I'm just gonna slap a little on the wheels, because I'm gonna base these guys differently, so I'm not gonna bother basing this and this. But I do want to do like the multiple layers of mud thing. One of the YouTubers I watch does that, and it's really cool. His name is Night Shift, and he does really neat little multiple layers of mud thing. It's really cool. So I kind of want to tap into that a little bit, you know. There would be a ton of buildup in the wheels of like dried mud, but there would definitely be some in these like wheel carriage things like that, right? There'd definitely be some there. And definitely in these wheels would build up a little. There for sure as well. Yep. And I'm gonna be super honest. That's basically a Sherman done in just under an hour and a half. That is my Sherman almost done. Just gonna get some decals, and I'm gonna do some stowage on it. But yeah, that's basically a Sherman done in an hour and a half. And then basing, and he's gonna get another round of mud and stuff. But for the paints and stuff I have right now, she's done and ready to rock. Imagine it like just grinding across Normandy. You know, little U.S. troops running alongside of it. You know. How cool is that? It's fucking cool, isn't it? Yeah, it's fucking cool. Comes up to my Panther tank, you know, have a little shootout. I broke the antenna on my Panzer tank. Gotta fix that. Boom, 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 boom. Too cool, man. Too fucking cool. Yeah, I love that. But yeah, here she is. Pretty much done. Minus decals, top coat, and another round of weathering and stuff. There she is. Gotta come up with a fun name for it now. I'll paint it on the side. Oh. See if we can fix that fucking wire that I just broke. This thing's gonna basically be impossible to fix. But we'll try. I'd be better off replacing this with an actual piece of wire, I think. But we'll give it a shot. Oh yeah. There we go. That's our tank. It's our tank all painted up in an hour and a half. Oh, God, that's too cool. What a cool fucking model. Alright. With that, I'm going to go ahead and call it. Because the other bits I want to do on this, I have to research where I want to put the decals. And I got to come up with a funny name for it. I just don't have one yet. Yeah, so I got to come up with a funny name for it. I got to research where I want to put the decals. And then she will probably get top coated. And then when the new mud comes in, we'll probably use that to base. And I'll do a little bit of weathering on the tires and stuff. And then she'll be totally done. But yeah, thank you for watching me paint a U.S. World War II M4, I believe A1 Sherman. Might not be an A1, but I think it's an A1. Sherman for bolt action. But I'm going to go ahead and call it there. Thank you for watching. Have a good one.